you got to remember, a lot of Trump's voters are obsessed with child trafficking, and they voted for Trump based on this QAnon theory that Trump was sent to D.C. in order to clean out the nest of pedophiles controlling the deep, dark state. Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of those true believers. She was a QAnon conspiracist. So when these people turn, they turn hard. So it's when they find out that Trump has been lying to them, they really turn on Trump. I know it's hard for you and me to understand this, but these simpletons like Marjorie Taylor Greene are really pissed off at Trump because they can't believe he lied to them. They can't believe that Trump would ever lie to them. Steve Bannon, Trump's campaign manager back in 2016, who went to prison in 2024 for refusing to testify before the January 6th committee. Well, Steve Bannon was hoping that Pam Bondi's Justice Department would erase his conviction. He was hoping for some sort of symbolic gesture to clean his record. But now new Epstein files show Bannon was working far too close with Jeffrey Epstein than he ever let on. In fact, right up to the arrest, Steve Bannon, according to the Epstein files and this article in the New York Times, Bannon was trying to repair Epstein's image. The New York Times reporting that Steve Bannon stood up for Epstein right until the very end. In late June of 2019, right before Epstein's arrest, Bannon, according to the Times, was sending Jeffrey Epstein texts recommending how to counter this pedo-trafficking narrative. Bannon sent him texts right before he was arrested. Tell them you're a philanthropist. More texts reveal that Epstein, in the final months of his life, was showering Steve Bannon. Well, showering and Steve Bannon in the same sentence, that's a rarity. Oh, gifts. He was showering Steve Bannon with gifts. When nobody ever showered Steve Bannon with soap and water, including Steve Bannon. Smells really bad. Steve Bannon, bad smell. But he was taking gifts from Jeffrey Epstein, free travel, all in the final months of Jeffrey Epstein's life. And now there are new texts and emails revealing that Steve Bannon was asking Jeffrey Epstein in June of 2019. I mean, this is right before the arrest. He was asking for help in taking down Pope Francis. Who hates Pope Francis? Steve Bannon. How could you hate Pope Francis? In his email to Jeffrey Epstein, Bannon called Pope Francis a globalist who was just as dangerous as President Bill Clinton, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and the entire European Union. Bannon tried to convince Epstein to executive produce a documentary that would portray Pope Francis as a progressive ticking time bomb who has dangerously leftist positions on immigration, LGBTQ issues, divorce, and the church's sexual abuse scandal. Bannon called it all antithetical to conservative Catholic nationalism. Yes, Jeffrey Epstein would executive produce this documentary attacking the Pope's positions on family values like divorce, LGBTQ issues, and of course, the way they handled the church's sexual abuse scandal. Yeah. The ultimate blasphemy was Bannon in 2019 texting Epstein about how crazy Donald Trump is and why it's necessary for Trump's cabinet in 2019 to convene secretly and then invoke the 25th Amendment to get Trump out of the Oval Office. Well, Cat Turd took to Twitter and wrote, I've always been neutral on Steve Bannon. Didn't really care or follow his war room. That's the name of Steve Bannon's podcast. But now I've read the emails between him and Jeffrey Epstein. My God, it's so disgustingly bad. And save your breath acting like it was a documentary. Bannon was recording interviews with Epstein claiming it was a documentary, but it really was. He was trying to put together a puff piece about him. And save your breath acting like it was a documentary. I've been reading the emails between them. They're best friends trying to take down Trump together. It's so bad. Anyone from the war room who's trying to justify this is full of the S word. It's so bad, and there's no coming back from this. No coming back from this for Bannon in the MAGA universe. You know, when you lose Cat Turd, dog vomit can't be too far behind. You do not want to lose dog vomit. Wait, it gets better. New revelations, according to The Guardian, that Jeffrey Epstein felt sorry for Brett Kavanaugh during Kavanaugh's 2018 confirmation hearings, where Kavanaugh was accused of attempting to rape Christine Blasey Ford. Well, there would have been more women stepping forward, but the FBI didn't respond to the tips. But Jeffrey Epstein felt sorry for Brett Kavanaugh being accused of rape. Odd that Kavanaugh didn't side with the victim, or Epstein didn't side with the victim. He sided with Kavanaugh. You would think Jeffrey Epstein, given his past, would have been very protective of Christine Blasey Ford. No, he was all in on Kavanaugh. And this was revealed in texts that Jeffrey Epstein sent to former Whitewater prosecutor Kenneth Starr, who hired Kavanaugh to work on the prosecution of Bill Clinton. This is true. So Epstein and Ken Starr were texting back and forth during the Kavanaugh hearings because Epstein had hired Ken Starr to be his attorney down in Palm Beach to convince the federal prosecutor Acosta not to press charges. And he and Alan Dershowitz, Ken Starr and Alan Dershowitz, worked out that sweetheart deal where it was just jail time for a year. We also should mention that Brett Kavanaugh was hired by Kenneth Starr. Brett Kavanaugh worked on the prosecution of Bill Clinton. Now, Ken Starr had a mistress named Judy Hirschman. She's a lawyer, and when he had a mistress, according to his mistress, Judy Hirschman. And she, too, worked on the Clinton prosecution. She worked for Ken Starr when he was the Whitewater prosecutor. You might want to look up her article in 2018. It was in Slate. And so she recalled that Kavanaugh and she were working together on the Clinton prosecution, Whitewater prosecution. And she wrote that Kavanaugh cornered her in a conference room, and in what she described as a deranged fury, Brett Kavanaugh began berating her, chasing her around the table, screaming at her, and she felt physically threatened by him. When she reported this to Ken Starr, Starr said to drop it because the conservative movement has big plans for Brett Kavanaugh. According to Ken Starr's mistress, Judy Hirschman, in a 2018 Slate article, Starr said, quote, I'm not going to ask him to apologize to you. I'm apologizing to you for him. This is it. It's over. Forget it ever happened. During Ken Starr's tenure as president of Baylor University, that would be from 2010 to 2016, he had to step down in 2016 because Baylor University, where Ken Starr was president, the university was accused of failing to investigate, report, or take care of numerous allegations of rape, particularly involving football players. That would be Ken Starr, the Whitewater prosecutor who tried to get Bill Clinton impeached for lying about oral sex. He then became Jeffrey Epstein's attorney. According to Judy Hirschman, had a mistress, was cheating on his wife, looked the other way when Baylor University, when he was president of Baylor University, which had an epidemic of rape. Well, Ken Starr served as Epstein's attorney, working at that sweetheart deal in Florida that allowed Epstein to avoid federal prosecution. When he was working for Jeffrey Epstein, he wanted his mistress, Judy Hirschman, to come help him defend Jeffrey Epstein. And she said, well, it looks pretty bad. And Ken Starr told her, quote, "Everyone deserves representation, Judy." And then he added, "Epstein's promised to keep it above 18 from now on," unquote. That's what Ken Starr said to his mistress. "Come help me defend Jeffrey Epstein." Quote, "He promised to keep it above 18 from now on," like it's a speed limit. And then Starr later served as Trump's defense attorney during Trump's first impeachment, as did Pam Bondi. Ken Starr passed away, I think 4 years ago.